Okay, let's unpack this. It is, what, February 18th, 2026.
Hmm?
And if you're on the island right now, or even if you're just, obsessively refreshing your weather app from a freezing apartment in New York,
Yeah.
you know exactly what's happening. That crisp Christmas breeze, it's gone.
Oh, long gone.
And that buzzing, kind of frantic optimism of the new year, that whole new year, new me thing where everyone's going to the gym and, selling their house in a week,
Yeah.
that has settled down. It's settled into something a little more, well, real, routine.
Mm-hmm.
And for a very specific group of people listening to this deep dive, that reality is probably starting to feel a little bit like a weight right on your chest.
You're talking about the sellers.
I am talking to the homeowners,
Yeah.
the people who listed their property back in, August or September of last year, thinking, okay, by Christmas, we're sold. By January, we are closing.
Right.
You have this house. It is your pride and joy. Maybe you built it, block by block over 10 years.
Yeah.
And now it's been on the market for 6 months, maybe even coming up on a year.
And the silence is loud.
It is deafening. Because in the beginning, it was great, wasn't it? You had viewings, your WhatsApp was just blowing up, you had people saying, oh, I love the veranda, I'll get back to you.
Right.
But now, it's late February. We are edging into March. The phone is not ringing. The agent isn't calling. And you're just sitting there in a perfectly staged living room thinking, what on earth is wrong with my house?
It's a very lonely place to be. You start questioning everything. Is it the price? Is it the paint color? Is it the agent? Did I pick the wrong agent?
Exactly. And that is the tension we are really digging into today. We're looking at this really fascinating piece of insight from Jamaica Homes, written for this exact moment, this season of stillness. And the mission here is to figure out, when the market hits that pause button, do you panic? Do you fire everyone? Or do you double down?
And the answer, really, it starts with understanding that you just cannot treat the Jamaican market like it's anywhere else in the world. And I know we say that about everything in Jamaica, but with real estate, it's actually a structural fact.
Okay, but that's a big claim, though. I mean, real estate is real estate, isn't it? Buyer, seller, price, contract. Why should selling a house in Mandeville be so fundamentally different from selling one in, I don't know, Miami?
On paper, yeah, the mechanics are similar, but in practice, not at all. The source material makes this crucial distinction right at the top. We have this globalized idea of how property works because we all watch, Selling Sunset or location. We've been trained by TV.
Right, we see a house in Florida go up, and it's like 3 days later, boom, sold, over asking, bidding war,
Yeah.
champagne.
Exactly. But just look at the inventory in those places. In the U.S., it's a high-volume game. It's a product. Speed is the only metric of success. In the UK, you might have a street in London where every single terraced house is literally identical.
Same layout, same square footage, same brick.
Right. So pricing there is just math. It's an algorithm. If number 10 sells for 500 grand, well, number 12 is worth 500 grand. It is predictable. It's a conveyor belt.
And Jamaica is.
Yeah.
Definitely not a conveyor belt.
Far from it. I mean, if you drive through Kingston 6 or head out to Mandeville or up into the hills of St. Anne, what do you see? You aren't seeing products. You are seeing statements.
Statements. I like that word. Let's unpack that a little bit. What makes a house a statement?
Well, just think about how these homes are built. A lot of them weren't, put up by a developer in one go with some standard blueprint. They were built by hand, often over 10, 20 years. They were built with remittance money sent back from the UK or the US.
Right, the barrel money, the Western Union transfer.
Exactly. So you have a vision that sort of evolved with the family's fortunes. The source gives these great examples. Like, you'll have a house with a wraparound veranda that faces the hills at a very specific angle because the grandfather liked the breeze from that one direction.
Not because it was standard, but because he wanted it. Or the kitchen, that's huge, because Sunday dinner just kept getting bigger, so they knocked out a wall and extended it.
Precisely. Or a courtyard tucked away behind a gate that you would never even know was there. These aren't cookie-cutter homes. They are biographies made of concrete. Dean Jones, the founder of Jamaica Homes, has this quote in the article that really grounds it. He says, "Jamaican real estate is not a sprint. It is a steady walk through memory, identity, and aspiration."
That's poetic, and I love the sentiment. But if I'm a seller and I need the cash, a steady walk sounds an awful lot like slow. And slow makes me very nervous.
It is slow, that's the reality. But the insight here is that slow isn't broken. And that is the mental shift the seller has to make. When you're selling a statement, you just can't expect the speed of a product. You're not just selling walls and a roof, you're selling belonging.
Hmm.
And finding the specific person who belongs in your specific handcrafted, maybe slightly eccentric home, that takes time.
Okay, so if I'm sitting there and it's been 8 months, the takeaway isn't that I've failed. It is just that the match hasn't happened.
Correct. But, and this is a huge but, that does not mean you just sit there and pray. Stillness doesn't mean passivity. You don't just wait for the universe to deliver a buyer to your door.
Right, because there comes a point where unique just starts to feel unsellable. The article introduces this concept that I absolutely loved, the wild card property.
Yes. The wild card.
Now, be honest with me, wild card. It sounds like agent speak for weird. What actually qualifies a house as a wild card?
Well, sometimes it is weird. Let's be real. A wild card is any property that just refuses to tick the conventional boxes. Maybe the layout is a bit labyrinthine because of those additions we were just talking about.
Right.
Maybe the facade is really distinctive, like those 1970s arches that some people love and some people hate. Or maybe it's built into a slope in a way that makes the backyard complicated.
So basically, most houses in Jamaica that aren't in some shiny new gated scheme.
Ideally, yes. But here's the thing. In a hot market, you can sell anything. A buyer will overlook the weird layout because they're just desperate to buy. But in a still market, like we're seeing now, flaws stand out. Buyers have time to be picky. And this is where the source says, imagination becomes your currency.
Imagination is not optional. That was the line that jumped right out at me.
It's not. If you have a wildcard property, you and your agent have to see the sale before the buyer does. You have to reframe the entire narrative.
Okay, let's get tactical here, because reframing can sound a lot like spinning, and buyers can smell spin from a mile away. Give me an example of how you do this without, just lying to people.
It's not lying. It's about highlighting lifestyle over limitation. The source gives a few really clever examples. Let's take the compact kitchen.
Okay, small kitchen, can't fit an island. Buyers walk in, they see the space, and they go, where do I put my air fryer? Where does the family gather?
Right. If you sell it as small, or if you apologize for it, you've already lost. But if you stage it and market it as efficient and intimate, perfect for a modern couple who eats out or travels, suddenly it's not a flaw, it's a feature. You stop trying to sell it to the family of 8, and you start selling it to the digital nomad.
Okay, I can see that. You're filtering for the right buyer. What about the terrain? That's a big one in Jamaica. The sloping garden. I have seen so many listings where the backyard is basically a cliff.
A classic issue. In a flat market, a buyer sees a slope and thinks one word: cost. They think, I need a retaining wall, I need an engineer, this is a headache.
So how do you flip headache?
You flip it to opportunity. You market it as tiered potential for landscaping creativity, but you can't just say it. You have to show it. Maybe you commission a sketch or a 3D render showing what it could look like with terraced gardens or a deck overlooking the view. You have to do the work for their imagination.
That is smart.
Yeah.
Because most people can't visualize. They just see dirt and gravity.
Exactly. And my favorite example from the source, the dated facade. You know, the ones, the terrazzo tiles, the decorative breeze blocks.
Which are coming back in style, by the way. I was
Yeah.
just looking at a design magazine the other day, and breeze blocks are now mid-century modern.
They are, but you have to frame it right. It's not old. It is timeless Caribbean charm. It's retro chic. You're selling the story of the house. You're positioning its uniqueness as an advantage, not a hurdle.
But this brings us to the person who is supposed to be doing all this storytelling.
The agent.
The agent dilemma. This is the part where I feel like most people get stuck. Silence breeds paranoia. You haven't heard from the agent in 2 weeks. You see their face on a billboard selling some other development. You start thinking, they've given up on me. They're focusing on the easy sales. I need to fire them and get someone fresh.
It is the most common impulse. New agent, new magic.
So is it a myth or is it valid?
In this specific context, the quiet season, it's often a myth. The source is very clear on this. There's this belief that a new name on the sign will suddenly conjure buyers out of thin air. But in Jamaica, positioning matters way more than magic. If the market is quiet, it's quiet for everyone. Changing the sign doesn't change the interest rates.
But surely some agents are just lazy. I mean, we can't let them all off the hook.
Oh, absolutely not. And the source gives you a litmus test. It asks, do you collaborate or do you separate? Here's how you decide. If your agent is ghosting you, if they are vague, if their only strategy is let's wait and see, fire them immediately.
Okay, that's clear.
But if they are communicating regularly, even if it's just to say, hey, no viewings this week, but here's the traffic on the website. If they're being honest about the market conditions, if they're still hustling, then bringing in a new agent might actually set you back. You lose the institutional memory. You lose the person who knows why the grandfather built the veranda that way.
So instead of firing them, we need to be grilling them.
Partnering with them. Shift the dynamic from suspicion to collaboration. The source actually suggests a checklist of questions you should be asking your agent right now. Like, literally pause the podcast and write these down.
Okay, hit me with it. What am I asking?
Question 1. What is the marketing plan now versus 6 months ago?
That's a good one, because if the answer is it's the same, that's a red flag.
Huge red flag. The market has changed, the plan must change. Question 2. Are we targeting the right buyer profile? This is massive for Jamaica.
How so?
Well, maybe you started out listing the property locally. You were looking for a young professional in Kingston. But at this price point, with interest rates where they are, maybe that buyer just doesn't exist right now. You need to pivot to the diaspora.
Returning residents.
Exactly. People earning in USD or pounds who are looking to retire, that requires a completely different marketing channel. Different websites, different language, different visuals. You can't reach them with a flyer in a local supermarket.
And the third question.
This is the scary one. What do comparable sales actually show? And notice the emphasis on sales, not listings.
Ah, the quiet elephant in the room.
Third thing.
The source puts it pretty bluntly. Sometimes the issue is price, which is the absolute last thing a homeowner wants to hear. My house is worth it. I put in the marble counters. I imported the fixtures.
It's so emotional, and the source clarifies this. It's not about greed. It's not that the seller is greedy or that the home isn't valuable in a sentimental way. It's just that the market shifts. We're in a moment of rebuilding and recalibration. Valuations from last year, or even just the expectations from last year, might not match the psychology of buyers today.
I loved the metaphor the source used for this. It said, asking price and selling price are distant cousins who sometimes refuse to speak to each other.
It is brilliant, and it is so true in Jamaica. You see a house listed for $60 million, you see it sit there, then 6 months later you hear it sold. You assume it sold for 60, but behind closed doors, it went for 48.
But we don't see that data point. We only remember the sign that said 60.
Exactly. And that creates the Mr. Brown trap.
Oh, I know Mr. Brown. Everyone knows Mr. Brown. But Mr. Brown down the road sold his house for $60 million in 3 weeks.
Yes. The Mr. Brown factor is the biggest enemy of a realistic sale. Because yes, Mr. Brown sold, but did Mr. Brown have a corner lot? Did he have a view of the harbor?
Did he have a cash buyer who needed to close in 2 weeks because they were moving back from Florida and had absolutely nowhere to live?
Exactly. There's so many variables we don't see. The source says the market isn't a row of uniform bricks. It's a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Alignment matters more than averages.
So sellers have a really tough decision to make.
They do. You have to ask yourself, are you pricing based on attachment, how much you love your home, or are you pricing based on data? Because an overpriced home in a cautious market, it doesn't just sit there, it actively repels viewings.
It repels them. That sounds harsh.
It's true. Buyers are savvy, they have the internet. If they see a house that is clearly 20% over market value, they don't even bother booking a viewing to negotiate. They just scroll right past. You don't even get the chance to make your case.
So you're basically ghosting yourself.
Pretty much.
Let's talk about those buyers for a second. Because if we're going to sell in this season of stillness, we really need to understand who is actually out there buying right now. The source describes the Jamaican buyer as moving with deliberation.
Yes, and this goes right back to the contrast with the U.S. market. In New York, a property decision might be purely financial. Does the ROI make sense? Is the cap rate good? Done.
A transactional, cold.
Purely. But in Jamaica,
Yep.
especially for returning residents, this is a reconnection with identity. This is a lifetime milestone. They are not just buying a house, they are reclaiming their spot on the island.
Which means it's emotional. And when things are emotional, they get complicated.
And they get crowded.
The entourage effect. This part of the article made me laugh out loud because I have lived it.
It is a universal Jamaican experience. The buyer does not come alone.
Never.
They might come alone the first time. Then the second time, they bring the spouse. Then the third time, it's the mom, the auntie, and the dreaded engineer cousin.
The guy who isn't actually an engineer, but he knows about concrete.
He knows about concrete. He walks around tapping the walls, checking the foundation, looking for cracks, asking about the drainage. And as a seller, This can be infuriating. You're thinking, why can't they just decide? Why do they need approval from the entire village?
It feels like hesitation. It feels like they're looking for a reason to say no.
But the source flips that perspective completely. It says, this is not hesitation. This is seriousness.
How so?
If they are bringing the engineer cousin, it means they're actually visualizing living there. They are doing their due diligence. They're risking their own social capital by bringing their family into this decision. It's a sign of respect for how big this purchase is.
So when the van load of people pulls up, don't panic.
Don't panic. Make them coffee. Welcome the cousin. Answer his questions. That entourage is actually the closing committee. If the cousin gives the thumbs up, that house is sold.
I guess that also plays into the seasonality. We're in February, March. The source notes that this time of year is naturally a bit inhale, exhale.
Right. It's the end of the tax year. School fees are due. Business cycles are resetting. The market, as the article poetically puts it, inhales before exhaling.
That is a really comforting way to look at a slow period. It's not dead, it is just breathing.
Recalibrating. And if you understand that, you don't make rash decisions. You don't drop the price by $10 million just because nobody called in February.
So let's pull this all together. We are in a season of stillness. We have a unique property, a wild card. We have an agent we hopefully trust, or at least one we are going to grill tomorrow morning. What is the strategy?
The source summarizes it into 3 pillars: clarity, imagination, and resilience.
Okay. Clarity.
Clarity on your pricing. Be brutally honest about the data versus your emotional attachment. If the cousins asking and selling price aren't talking, you have to force a family meeting.
Imagination.
Reframing the features. That sloping garden isn't a cost. It's a tiered paradise. Tell a story about the lifestyle, not just the square footage. Do the work for the buyer's brain.
And resilience.
Staying the course. Keeping the house ready. Not spiraling because the phone hasn't rung in a week. Dean Jones has this great line: resilience in property is not about stubbornly holding price. It is about steadily holding vision while adapting strategy.
Holding vision, adapting strategy. That is the key distinction.
It is. And honestly, the source ends with an analogy that I think just perfectly captures the vibe of selling a home in Jamaica. It compares it to Sunday dinner.
I love this. Break it down for me.
So selling a property in a slow market is like preparing a Sunday dinner for guests who are running late.
Oh, we have all been there. You seasoned the meat on Friday. You started cooking at dawn on Sunday. You've tidied the house. You've set the table. The ice is in the glasses.
And you wait. And it's 2:00 p.m. Then it's 2:3. And you start to wonder, did I get the time wrong? Are they even coming? Is the food getting cold?
It is anxious work. You're pacing. You're checking the window.
But, and this is the kicker, when they finally arrive, all that prep makes perfect sense. The meal is ready, the house is welcoming, the atmosphere is right.
And the right buyer feels like the right guest.
Exactly. Unexpected, maybe. Late, almost certainly, but right.
That is really the core message here, isn't it? The right buyer isn't looking for any house. They are looking for their house.
And when that alignment happens, when the person looking for belonging walks into the statement you built, the 6 months of silence doesn't matter anymore. The stillness transforms into decisive movement, just like that.
It really just comes down to trust. Trusting the process and trusting the value of what you've actually built.
And trusting that unique things take time to find their match. In a world of cookie-cutter production, being unique is harder, but the payoff, that connection, is so much stronger.
So to the homeowners listening, if your sign is fading a little in the sun and your WhatsApp is quiet, just take a breath. Check your strategy. Absolutely. Have that tough conversation with your agent. Reevaluate that price if the data says so. But don't lose heart.
Study the course, work the strategy, and keep the house ready.
Because the stillness isn't the end of the story. It's just the inhale.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That is it for this deep dive into the Jamaican property market. We hope this gave you some perspective, maybe some peace of mind, and definitely some tactical questions to ask your agent.
And remember to be nice to the engineer cousin.
Always make space for the engineer cousin. He signs off on the checks. Thanks for listening, everyone. We will catch you on the next deep dive.